Hi friends, good morning and welcome to day 5 of the week 5 Elijah Bible study by Priscilla Shirer. Again, this is just my summary. This one is titled Keep the Fire Going, and in 1 Kings 18:40 she references, do not let one of them escape. She starts off by talking about this fire pit and trying to start a fire, and they were so excited, but they couldn't get it started. The wood was wet, and she realized really quickly that they didn't have everything that they needed to create a perfect fire. So everything she's trying to relate this to Elijah's life is so true in our everyday lives as well. All of it. We cannot have a spiritual fire for God if we are not giving it fuel. And it will not stay burning if we don't continue to give it fuel. So we have these spiritual awakenings sometimes. At church, it was a great message, great songs, and you just feel so alive and so enriched. And then on Monday, all the distractions of your everyday life get in the way. And so it depresses and puts out your fire. And so she is challenging us to be like Elijah, where our spiritual fire was ignited, even though our assignments aren't complete, but our fire is ignited, and in order to keep it burning, anything and everything that is working against us needs to be removed from our lives. So come Monday, after you've had a wonderful sermon at church and you feel so refreshed and on fire for God, what's the first thing that dampens that for you? What's the first thing that removes God's presence from your life? And I say removes it because if we don't protect it, that's on us, right? God's not forcing us to love him. He's not forcing us into this relationship. So everything that we do that doesn't add to the fire and feed it, it needs to be removed. So if it's something that adds to our fire, we definitely have to keep doing it, and we have to do it more often so that our fire doesn't burn out. So she says, does this sound extreme? Yes. Removing everything from our life that distracts us from God is extreme, but it is a requirement. It is an essential element that we need to keep our fire going. A fire can't happen without its fuel, which is the wood, the oxygen, the wind. Like, it has to have, and the ignition, like all these things have to happen in order to be a sustainable fire. And the same thing in our walk with God. We cannot have a good spiritual walk with God if we're not fueling it. We have to pray. We have to read our Bible. We have to surround ourselves by like-minded people. And we have to also remove things that are putting it out. For example, water would put a fire out, right? Not enough air covering it, like all these things. So what are the things in your life that are putting out your fire? Is it social media? Is it friendships? Is it family members who are super toxic? Again, she tells you that, we can't get rid of family members that we've made a commitment to. For example, your marriage or your children. Those are things that you have to keep praying about and instill. She's not telling you to get rid of things like that, but if there are people in your life that are extremely toxic, we have to start letting go of some of these people that are in our way of our spiritual relationships. And we're not called to be unkind or completely remove them, but we don't have to always surround ourselves with that. Does that make sense? So she encourages us to consider the very first thing that is toxic to your relationship with Jesus. What is it that is putting out your fire? So all of these things for Elijah, he was super, super ignited. He was on fire for God, and he had everything in place, the proper sacrifice, the perfect place to do it, the right heart, like everything was in place for him to be on fire for God. And even though there were so many people against him, he simply just chose to ignore and challenge them anyway. He didn't let it get in his way. But as we move through this week, she tells you to don't feel overwhelmed, don't be discouraged, but definitely do everything in your power to keep your fire going. And you're going to know best what those things are that are distracting you. And my challenge to you is, as soon as you have that spiritual awakening, like if it's on a Sunday or even a Wednesday or even in your Bible study, pay attention. What's the very first thing that distracts you from God right afterwards? What is it? Because that's what happens. We get busy. Or we get frustrated, like what is it and how can we fix it? And so for me, for an example, I get super frustrated because I get overwhelmed easily. my brain gets messy, and so I need to be better organized. And so I've been on this track of like fixing things that are an easy fix so that I don't get easily frustrated, because the one thing I don't want to do is set a bad example for my kids, and I don't want to create havoc in my marriage and in my friendships, and everything that I do. I have to be intentional. And so I'm realizing right now that even though I'm distancing myself from friends and family, and I've been kind of reclusive, it's for a purpose. I've been spending this time trying to organize my life, trying to get things on track so that when I do have time to nourish my friendships and things like that, I won't be so frustrated with my family. Because what was happening is I wasn't saying no to anyone, I was saying yes to everyone. And so I wasn't having time for Bible study. It was making me frustrated. I was snapping at my family. I was snapping at myself. And I was constantly just frustrated and overwhelmed and just emotionally drained. And I realized that's not me. That's not who I want to be. And so the first thing I realized is that I needed to get organized. My life is out of control, and I needed to better plan ahead. And in that plan, I have to plan for my God time. And so I'm challenging all of us today to keep our fires going. First of all, we have to take a step back from all the things that we're doing that are filling our lives with void. What is it that's completely wasting your time and wasting your life away? And then you have to reorganize. Whether if you're already an organized person, then what is it, are you so organized that now you don't have time to nourish relationships? Like, there's always got to be a balance. But what is going to keep your fire going for God so that you can be a better person for the kingdom overall? So I hope you'll take this challenge and really focus on how we can ignite our fires, keep them burning, and then don't let them go out.